into a real fight wasn't right. Where can she dream here?
Hey everyone, how's it going? Zach Clayton, Community Pay It Forward, Community Dare to Care, and the PAC channels. It is Wednesday night, which means another episode of Packed Podcast. People all coming together. Podcasting for people who are doing great things, who have done great things, and most importantly, are doing good things for others. Just a little bit of a background for anybody who fur. Well, there's a little bit of the hillbilly coming out in me. Anyway, a little bit of background for all of you who are joining us for the first, second, or third time. You don't know a lot about what's going on. I started this company 9 years ago now, coming up on a decade in just mere months ago, when I was run off the road on my motorcycle and left in a ditch for over 7 hours. Well, I went to go and try to get food from my family. We tried to pay rent. We tried to do all kinds of all kinds of things. But due to my injuries and due to the way that the system is set up, we were told by the people at with food assistance that I was ineligible because I made too much money last year. I was told by the insurance companies that everything takes its time and yada yada yada. And the point is that everything fell behind, and once things started disappearing, they started disappearing very quickly. Well, I wanted to make sure, because the one thing I was noticing without a doubt is that I kept getting told that I need to, quote unquote, relax. And folks, it's very hard to relax when you're losing everything that you'd worked hard for. Losing both of my motorcycles, losing the pickup that was almost paid off. As a matter of fact, it was almost paid off. I think we had like 6 months left on it. Eventually losing the house. Just losing so much. And I wanted to come up with a way to where we could take and help each other not lose just because something unfortunate happened. First thought was I was going to get into doing event planning. Thankfully, smarter ideas came to my head. All I can think of is that, I love people. I love helping people. I don't know if I like anyone enough to help them plan an event or a party. And definitely not a wedding. A wedding in me, that wouldn't be, any wedding that I plan, you probably don't want to have any part in. I don't know. There might be some of you, but very few. And I'll guarantee you, your wives would not be interested in the wedding that I would throw. So I decided to go on ahead and do what I love doing, working with small businesses in the motorcycle world, and continue the work that we had done with them. And we simply decided to go on ahead and grab a referral from some of these wonderful businesses that we work with, and turn that referral from closed business into a donation to people all over the country. Whether that's someone like myself who was in an accident and needs a little bit of help, whether that's a nonprofit, whether that's kids trying to raise money for school or church programs, club activities, whatever it is. This just gives us a chance to take and help people along their journey. And we can do it the best way I could think of on how to raise money, and that's by asking them to come in and shop with us as business owners. It just seemed to me to make a lot of sense. Well, here we are a couple years later. You can find all of our partners using that QR code that just popped up in the corner. You tell us what you're looking for, and we will try to compare and connect you to some of our wonderful partners in the program. You do business with them, then you get to pick who you would like to choose to support. You choose who you want to support, and at least 80% of whatever I get from them as a referral goes to whoever you choose. So it's a program that, look, it's definitely taken a lot of time, taken a lot of energy, but the thing is, we're doing a lot of good, and we want to keep this up, and we can only keep it up if we continue to have your support and your help. So we're asking you to please scan that QR code. Tell us who you're looking for. Let us introduce you to some of the wonderful people that we've got working with us. You do business with them, and you get to support a cause that you love. It's not a cause that I love, okay? Look, the truth is that you're not really going to care who I support. You're going to care who you support, and I wanted to make that invaluable. People ask us for help. You tell us which one you would like to support. It's as simple as that. So again, if you scan that QR code, it takes you to a form, and one of the first things you will see is a list of partners. Sorry, wrong form. If you scan this form that you see up in the corner, it'll ask you what you're looking for. You just write down whatever the job is, whatever it is, and we will find someone if we have someone in our program. Once that is done, once the job is completed, we will ask you, who do you want to support? Whatever that company gives us, 80%, at least 80% will go to them. This was the absolute best way I could think of to make a huge difference in the community. Now, with your help, we can really, really make a difference. We are looking for people to join our program. We're looking for people to be part of the Community Pay It Forward family. We need restaurants from all over the country, all over the world. We don't care. I'm in Colorado, okay? But that doesn't mean that we're only helping people in Colorado. We've got partners in New York, in Texas. We've got partners in Florida. We've got partners in Georgia. We've got partners in Washington, in California, in Canada. We've got partners everywhere. We've also got people who follow us. And maybe these people are coming to your town. Wouldn't you like for your restaurant, your hotel, to have an edge up when they get to town? Because these followers of what we do are looking ahead at places to stay or restaurants to go to where they can still continue to support the things that they love. Contact us. CommunityPayItForward.us. That's CommunityPayItForward.us, or you can email me at Zach@CommunityPayItForward.us. Once again, that's ZAK, Zach, at CommunityPayItForward.us. We have two guests this evening for you. Both of them are new have new programs to Community Pay It Forward. One has been with Community Pay It Forward family for quite a while, but now he's got this new and exciting program that parents, you are going to want to listen to the second interview coming up in about 45 minutes. Okay? Your kids have year-end testing coming up. Your kids have college possibly coming up. You're going to want to listen and take advantage of what's going on with Darren. Okay? Very, very wonderful program he's running. Very generous and very much time well spent. But joining us first tonight is a 13-year veteran who was injured. He had planned on making the military his career, but he ended up getting injured. He'll explain this story a little bit more. It cut his service time short. So he had to take and do what we have to do every once in a while. He had to pick himself up and get started new. Well, he did that. He not only did that, he is doing a fantastic job helping out so many people. In this crazy business world, financing is so difficult to find sometimes, and especially for those of us who don't have the best credit. The story I told you as we got started, one of the worst things about that story is, we had to take on every ounce of assistance we could try to get just to make sure we were paying bills. Paying those bills, and once we would pay those bills, though, it'd be extremely difficult to take and pay those cards or whatever back. You build a lifestyle around what you make. You build a lifestyle around what you're comfortable doing. When that's taken away from you, life gets tough. It's nice having somebody like Jared Smith around. This is Jared joined me at during the 22-hour podcast, and he has joined the team full time now. And I'd love to introduce to you Mr. Jared Smith, who, like I said, he has programs at Lone Star Valor Funding. He has programs to help businesses with lending needs of all sorts. And he's going to be talking to us about quite a few of them. So this is Jared Smith with Lone Star Valor Funding. I hope you enjoy this. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments and I will get them answered for you.
All right.
Met this gentleman probably early last month, and he joined us because he saw what we were doing with February 22nd, and it fit who he is and what he does. And so we started having a couple conversations, and it's really turned into a very, very comfortable and exciting partnership. Lone Star Valor Funding founder Jared Smith, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Hey, not a problem. You are a veteran. You had a 16-year career?
13.
13. Sorry about that. Yeah,
No, it's all right.
13-year career. And an injury kind of changed your plans. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I ended up getting a static line injury, which means that the line that's connected to the plane that when you jump out doing airborne operations, pulls your chute. Well, the person in front of me didn't properly hand it off correctly, and my unfortunate arm went through their line, and it kind of snapped me back towards the plane and messed up my shoulder. And I ended up having to have a couple surgeries on it. They did kind of a, I think it's called a bicep reattachment. They reattached my bicep in another spot, and I took some of my clavicle away, and I lost a lot of usage out of my arm. And so they just basically said, "Well, sorry, we'll just medically discharge you out of the army."
You know, I had a bicep reattachment in October, and I'm going to tell you right now, for those of you who have never had one, don't. They're not comfortable. So,
Yeah, you can't move your arm for 6 weeks. You're not allowed to do anything. And I like to say, and I apologize for this terminology, but I like to say I'm left-handed retarded. So like, it was my dominant arm. So like, trying to use my left hand and figure out how to do things was such a challenge. Yeah.
yeah, I, I actually, I got lucky. It was my left arm. That I had the surgery on, so I could still do everything with my right arm. And like you said, though, I'm pretty sure I would do better trying to write with my mouth or write with my feet than trying to write with my left arm. um Jared, you decided to start Lone Star Valor Funding. Why did you start your program instead of going with one of the bigger guys?
Yeah. So it kind of goes back to I unfortunately got into starting a franchise before this, doing business brokerage, and unfortunately it wasn't a good relationship, and that kind of, the best way to put it is that we had to get legal and split ways, and it was a dirty mess, and that, and so when I created this, I wanted it to be mine. I didn't want to have to deal with all of those fees, all of that's restrictions, and don't get me wrong, I don't want to say franchising and that is a bad thing, but it was, after going through what I did, I didn't want to have to do that again.
When that's one of the things that has kind of always disturbed me is that they after you've spent the 13 years in the service, to have to come out and try to do all the training and all the relearning of everything else, it seems to put our veterans behind so much. So I appreciate the way that you went through yours. I do understand the fact on splitting up with a partner, with someone else. You know, my story is similar in that regard, but all look, I just see you doing so much better, doing what you're doing now. Hey, you have special financing for people, for all kinds of people. Why don't you tell us about your new partnership with other financial lenders?
I mean, so I'm always trying to look for ways to help everybody and benefit everybody. Whether you're a veteran, whether you're women, own business, depending. There's always some type of special financing, where there's some ways around that, and uh, that's kind of what makes us who we are. Is we, I don't just say, okay, I've got this lender, let's try to make it fit. And one of the ways I've done that is, I was able to find some partners or lenders that offer um, lending options or financing options to businesses like consulting or coaching, or even the service industry that may have what we call a high ticket item or large dollar amount, say $1,000 or even more, that they're charging clients, and maybe they're struggling closing those because they're at such a high amount. um, this would allow them to offer financing to their clients, so that hopefully they can close more deals, and then it kind of takes the risk off of them as well, because then they're not having to be the bank, and they don't have to worry about missed payments, you know, and trying to hunt down if the client, you know, made a payment. I know I'm kind of guilty about that. I know, Zach, you were getting on me about trying to make sure I made my payment, and I was like, oh crap, you know. But and that's kind of the good thing about these lenders is that you don't have to worry about that, because once they get approved, you know, they fund you the money, and then you're good to go, and then they just work the relationship between them and the bank, or between them and the lender. And one of the guys, or one of the companies I work with, they do like subprime lending. They have about 35 different lenders, so that gives them a bunch of different options. It allows credit challenge people, so it really helps those small businesses that are needing help offering funding, or financing options for their clients, to help them close more deals.
And this is this really helps a lot of people. Once again, the consulting services and everything, but this helps out people with credit difficulties and everything else. Who what are some of the advantages people have coming to you rather than going someone else who have credit difficulties?
I mean, so obviously, I always tell people there's no magical pill here, and
Mhm.
so you know, it's sometimes finding that right lender, you know, and it is a struggle sometimes with credit, you know, difficulties, but w- I tend to focus more on business, and that. And so when we're talking about business finances, even with a business owner that may have some credit issues, sometimes I can get around that depending on how much revenue they're bringing in. I have certain lenders that, you know, overlook your credit score because you're bringing in X amount of dollars every month, and in revenue. And so that's kind of the benefit of going through somebody like me, or me, is it's that I can see kind of a wealth of lenders, and then I really try to put the time and effort into making sure that this lender is right for you, because I don't there's always the horror stories in the military, and I like to use this example of what, you know, being a young private, and you go out and get a car for 20% interest rate, or 20, you know, 30% interest rate, you know, because they took advantage of you as a you know, a private in the army, knowing that you'll have to pay it, right? And so um there's a lot of people out there that will do that, because they'll just take whatever they can and force it, basically, and say, this is it, you know, where, you know, it may be that's the only option, but I'm going to do my due diligence and make sure that I really find and hunt down, and I may present that, and I will present that option, but I'm gonna highly advise, like, not to go with this. You know, what I mean, I'm like, you're gonna drown in interest. You know, if it's that case. You know, for me, it's all about looking in the best interest of the client. I'm not here to work for the banks. I'm not here to, you know, try to put you in a situation that's just going to drown you, because to me that doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't keep your business running. You know, if you're struggling now, looking for needing money, but you're still struggling but able to keep it going, I'd much rather that, and us work on trying to get you better, than, you know, shoving a 15-20% interest rate down your, you know, throat that is just going to drown you in payments. And so that's sometimes where we have to weigh that, and that's kind of the benefit of using my experience. And the good thing is that for the most part, I'm free, and I don't charge people to use my services. So um, I- everything I do, all my time is absolutely free for them, and so it's kind of a no brainer. I feel like, not to use this.
Someone doesn't get a Say someone doesn't get approved. Do you just say sorry, can't do nothing, and walk on, or do you try to
I'm
help them?
glad. I'm so glad you asked that question. So that's kind of the other facet of our business. One of the things I learned kind of early on getting into this was that was kind of um, the attitude of a lot of people in this industry, and a lot of people attitude in lending. Pre-qualify the client, And if they aren't pre-qualified or you can't get them approved, move on to the next person. Time is money, right? That's kind of what the constant thing was. And it's like, well, hold on a second. It's like these are people too. These are business owners, that like that, this is make or break for a lot of these people. And understanding why you're not getting approved can really understand and help you develop that and fix that area. And so absolutely we've created kind of the business credit side of it to help them, try to coach them and say, okay, this is where we need to fix things and this is where we need to work on. And then we help them with their business credit side so that uh, at the end of it, we can make sure that they are lendable. Because what happens a lot of times in this industry, well, in business, a lot of times the business owners, they get started, they say, okay, hey, I've got money, let's get started in business. And then they start saying, I'm not gonna get no loans, I'm not gonna get anything, which sounds great, right? But what then they start doing is they start using their like personal credit, credit cards, personal credit, loans, that kind of stuff. Well, all of that hits your personal loan or your personal credit. And so if you start maxing out your credit cards, all of that stuff, well, it brings down your personal credit score, which then ultimately hurts you trying to get loans and that kind of thing. So it's this kind of vicious circle where if you learn to adapt and put it into the business credit side and learn how to build your business credit, it doesn't affect your personal side. They may look at your personal credit, but it's not going to affect it um, at all unless you like miss a payment or that. Then they may go after your personal credit. But most of the time, or all the time, they don't even do hard pulls on your credit. It's all soft pulls. So business credit makes way more sense in that, but trying to get some business owners to really understand that sometimes is hard.
When you are able to help somebody though, and this is one of the things that doesn't make any sense to me, the way that the attitude was with the people who were trying to teach you is, don't you want to give somebody a chance to stand up because they could become the biggest client you have? And being there for them when they're in their time in need really gives them incentive to come back.
So I guess is kind of the premise, and for me, it's never been about that necessarily. It's for me, it's always been about I believe in karma. You know what I mean? And so I always believe what you put in, you get out. And so if 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 I can help somebody, I feel like it will be come back tenfold. And so and there's nothing worse, especially when I was doing like the business broker side of it, when somebody approaches you when their business is dying saying, can you help me sell this business? And you look at all of their financials and you're like, I don't even know how you're staying open right now, let alone there's nobody that's going to want to buy this dying business, you know.
Mhm.
And so and you have to turn them away because of that. And it's heartbreaking. And for me, there was quite a few times that those were military people, they were veterans, and it's like, I want to help them more, but like, how do you help somebody that's already kind of at that end, and so that's kind of the other reason why I got into the lending side, was because if I can help them understand it, help them actually be able to finance or grow their business properly through funding, that I think is going to be critical in their development of business.
You just mentioned where we wanted to go next, and that is veterans. Obviously, veterans is something very near and dear to your heart, but you help veterans navigate this crazy world of funding.
Absolutely. And so, I mean, the veteran community, obviously there's a um, they're near dear to my heart. Obviously being a veteran, we all understand the sacrifices that we've made, and understand, especially getting out, kind of that whole, transition out. And so, being able to get into business and find your purpose and your drive is great and critical and amazing. And so um, that to me is like, I want to keep that going for these people, for veterans, because I know what it felt like not having my purpose after I got out of the military, and it took me a while. And so now it's like, okay, I feel like I found my purpose. And so I know what business owners, a lot of these veteran business owners, that's their purpose. But now that they're out of the military, and they put their blood, sweat, and tears in here after they've already gave their blood, sweat, and tears to the country, and so um I will go above and beyond, and swim across the country if I have to try to figure out how I can best help them. Just because we all look after each other.
All right. Let's be a coach here for a second. What is the first thing that you think people need to make sure that they like think about before they come and start looking for funding?
Yeah. So the first thing I always tell people is establish your business credit. So a lot of people don't realize, or don't realize that business credit does not work like civilian credit, work like personal credit, in the sense that, like, we all have it, right? We're born, we have personal credit, right? It may not be established, right, but it's a tied to our social security number. So the common misconception is, oh, I've got an EIN number, that's my credit score, or that's going to be my credit number. Well, that's not the case with business. You have to go through and register and actually start working on that. So even though you may have a business card, even though you may have stuff registered in the business, if you haven't applied for your DUNS number or done any of that, then you're really not doing much for the business credit side. And so you're not helping your business in that sense. So that's kind of my thing, is get your business credit to start establish, as soon as you get started. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. And you can go to, like, so the main one is Dun and Bradstreet. It's dnb.com. You can go there and register for the DUNS. It takes, I believe, like a week or two to get your DUNS number, is what they call it, back. And then once you're there, as with your credit cards, and if you do any like net 30 accounts or anything like that, it will start reporting to them. And then that's when you'll start establishing your business credit. But most people don't do that.
That's it's actually something I'd never even heard of. So that's really great advice. What is the biggest mistake, Jared, that you see people make, other than obviously not going and getting their credit started?
Yeah, I mean, so I guess the biggest credit is, or the biggest mistake is using the personal,
Mhm.
and not kind of separating business from personal. And sometimes that can be very hard, especially if you're sole proprietorship or even a small LLC. It's hard to kind of not intervene, or especially starting out, just because your funds are almost the same sometimes, depending on how. But I say it's really critical to split those up and keep those split, because, like I said, what the common occurrence is to start using their personal credit cards, using their personal stuff to start funding it. And what I've recently learned, besides it hurting, like if you go to sell a business, besides um, trying to figure out your finances, the other thing is that, with most people understand that if you get an LLC, right, the LLC is there to protect you, right? They can only sue you for money. And I'm no lawyer, so this is not legal advice. So I probably should put that disclaimer in there. But that an LLC is supposed to protect your assets as a person, your personal assets, from your business assets. But I was watching a video on somebody talking about, a lawyer talking about how, if they have that stuff intertwined with their personal, that you may no longer be protected, because it's put in there with your personal stuff. And so legally, even, there's some risk there if you run it through your personal, which I didn't even realize until recently, that there was that risk.
I was just going to ask you that too. that would be one of the reasons why you definitely want to make sure that you keep everything separate, have different, because, look, just because God forbid your business goes down, that doesn't mean that your whole life has to go down, and if you're careful.
Well, and that's the thing is, and depending on and the same, depending on the industry that you're in, obviously there you may be more at risk for litigation, and obviously at the end of the day, we always want to protect ourselves and take
Mhm.
care of ourselves. And I'm not trying to say be a scumbag or anything like that, but if you're kind of in that at risk business that, hey, like say a contractor, because you didn't do the right, or they're saying you did something wrong, or that, you know what I mean, and you get sued, or right, you don't want to have to worry about your personal assets or your personal stuff being at risk just because you decided not to separate them, even though you thought you were safe because you had an LLC.
Right, right. Uh, Jared, how do people get a hold of you? What's the easiest way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, so the easiest way is you can either head to our website at www.lonestarvalorfunding.com. There's a little contact form in there if you feel like filling that out. You can call our numbers there. It's 210-610-1970. Or you can contact me directly at admin@lonestarvalor.com. And I'm more than happy to answer your messages directly.
That's great. You can also find Jared at communitypayitforward.us because he is one of our giving partners. Every time that you
Absolutely.
use Jared, if you tell him that that you were shown the path to him through Community Pay It Forward, he is going to give us some money that's going to go directly to a cause that you support. We don't choose who you support it. So. But Jared, would you like to leave this by leaving anybody any extra information or words of wisdom?
Um, I don't know if there's any. Oh, that's a tough one. I guess just keep moving forward. Just because you have one bad day doesn't mean the next day's got to be bad. Stay positive, and everything will work out for itself.
I love that. Yeah. Look, everybody's going to have a bad day. Some worse than others, and then But if you let it ruin your life, well, that's kind of on you. But I love that. Well, once again, you can get a hold of Jared at lonestarfunding.com,
No,
lonestarvalorfunding.com. Please remember the valor in there, unlike
please.
your host, your lonestarvalorfunding.com. Where can you work? What
Throughout the United States.
All right. That's very important. So remember, this is something that just because he is in San Antonio doesn't mean that he can't work here in Colorado or wherever you're at. So make sure that if you want a second view, should you always get a second opinion when it comes
I
to
I
something like this?
I strongly think that getting a second opinion, or having options, is the best way to go, because why wouldn't you want your finances being competitive? Um, and that's kind of the only downside about going to like a bank, is they're not going to give you any other options. Um,
Right.
you know, so I give options. So
Well, and there you go. And you know what? If he can help save you on your payments, we're not in business to give money away. Well, I guess we kind of are, but yeah, you know, that's kind of what we're both doing here a little bit. But you know, your matter of fact, your business is giving money away. So forget that last statement. But we're not in business on giving our money away. How's that? So, but once again, we've been talking to Jared Smith with Lone Star Valor Funding. Got it in there. LoneStarValorFunding.com. You can also contact him at admin@LoneStarValorFunding.com, or give him a call at 210-610-1970. Once again, that's 210-610-1970. Jared, I'm
if I
going to
don't
be
answer, sorry, real quick, if I don't answer, please leave a message or text me. Sometimes I'm in meetings like this and I try not to be rude. So please absolutely leave a message. I'm not trying to be rude. So
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. All right, Jared, I want to say officially welcome to the family. It's great to have you here. Let's get this going. Let's see how many people we can help out, huh?
absolutely, my pleasure.
All right, thank you very much.
Introducing Shop, Click, and Pick, the simplest way to support those doing good. We understand that shopping is a necessity, but with a slight adjustment, you can make a big difference. Here's how it works. Visit communitypayitforward.us and navigate to the Find Your Partners tab. Discover our verified giving partners, trusted allies ready to meet your needs. Shop with any partner that resonates with you. Click a picture of your receipt or invoice. Pick the mission partner you wish to support and use their QR code to send the receipt to us. Then, all you have to do is sit back and enjoy your purchase, knowing you've made a meaningful change for someone in need. Community Pay It Forward amplifies your business's impact by sharing your story with those who require your services, rallying support for those who need us all. Because no one needs to go it alone. When we all come together.
This one's been a long time coming. Darren and I, we finally reconnected after he showed up and helped us out at Family Cubs and Causes, and helped us put together that event that hopefully, we're still working on it, but hopefully is going to have a rebirth this year. And we're going to try it again. But at that point in time, Darren, you were living down in Denver. And
That's right.
Working on harness data consulting, which is still around,
Yep.
But now you've got something extremely exciting and extremely helpful to people, and especially this time of year. Why don't you tell us about Tutor My Math?
Absolutely, Zach. And thank you for having me on the show. I'm super excited to be here. Super cool. So, yeah. Well, as you said, I was living in Denver a few years ago when we first connected. Since then, my partner Kayla and I have been on some fun adventures. We've sold our house in Denver, living fully remotely. We, travel full time. We're nomadic. So we have been looking at different ways to, have incomes, those kind of things. And the project that's been a big passion piece for me for a long time is tutormymath.com. When the pandemic started, I had just launched Harness Data Consulting, which you mentioned. And just as sort of a, thinking about, well, everyone is suddenly switching to virtual learning, the school systems, everything was sort of, I guess, all of society was kind of in disarray at the time during the start of the pandemic. So I signed up for a Zoom account. I had been tutoring for a number of years. I worked in college as a math tutor. I've done private sessions, since then, just in my own time. And I really had this idea in my mind of how could we change the way that we teach math in schools, or just in general, because I really struggled with math. And when I say really struggled, I was always a B student. I was always in the sort of the main classes. I was never in advanced classes. I was never in remedial classes. I was always a B student, but I had a very hard time paying attention in class, definitely. And I found that I really just couldn't do math without a calculator. I didn't understand fraction concepts, and as it got harder and harder, I was just less and less interested in it. And I think part of that, from working with the students that I work with these days, is that we spend so much time teaching computation and memorization when math is really about questioning, creative problem solving, and understanding concepts. So I sort of, had a lot of success with harness data consulting, so much so that I was able to take a little bit of time off and really think about, what do I want to do now that I've, we don't own a home, we've sold off most of our possessions, like we've tried as much as possible to eliminate debt, and now it's like, how could I take the success I've had so far and do something that I'm passionate about, but also really give back in a way that I haven't been able to before. And the idea that's always been in my mind is this math tutoring company, and sort of just how I would teach it if I had the opportunity. Does that make sense?
It actually, it makes a lot of sense. And that's one of the reasons why I was so happy that we got back together for this, because we always tell people that, look, we learn how to do what we do because of experiences we've had.
Absolutely.
I had the experience where after my accident, I was told that I couldn't feed my family because I made too much money the previous year. And I completely agree with you on one thing. I couldn't pay attention in math. If they could have lit me on fire,
yes,
and I wouldn't have been able to pay attention. So what are you doing differently that's making it exciting? Or even if not exciting, making it to where people can understand it easier?
Absolutely. And the topic that I am most interested in is divisibility. Are you familiar with divisibility at all?
Yes.
A lot of people have that reaction, right? And a lot of people say, well, is that like division? And it's like division in that we're talking about dividing things, but it's the concept of it. It's the why is that interesting? And what I like to do, the way I try to make it more fun, more interesting, is again, we're focusing on some of these concepts. So understanding, for example, let me give you a specific example, right? There are how many degrees in a circle?
360.
360, very good. Why are there 360 degrees in a circle?
I don't think I've ever heard that question before.
And I don't think that's a question that gets asked in math class very often, right? And as as a math major, as a master in mathematics, like I took you start asking questions like that. And the reason why there are 360 degrees in a circle is because 360 is a highly divisible number, this concept of divisibility that we're talking about. And it turns out that goes back to very ancient history. That's Babylonians, that's Egypt. Like we used numbers that are multiples of 12 as a society, as a civilization, because you can divide it by 2, by 3, by 4, by 5, by 6, by 8, by 9, by 10, by 12. Like there's a lot of numbers that go into it. It turns out that's a very useful concept. It's useful because it helps build mental math skills, right? We spend so much time focusing on multiplication and trying to know all your multiplication facts. I struggled with multiplication facts. If you ask me what 6 times 8 is, in my brain, I go 36, 42, 48, because that was the trick that I use, and everyone has their own version of the tricks, but we spend so much time like trying to understand, what these facts are. But what divisibility talks about is how to break numbers down into its basic components, right? And that's where you start talking about prime numbers and, some of these connected concepts. But I really love to explore the history of it and then look at the bigger picture, how it connects to, again, it helps with mental math. It comes up in algebra. All the algebra students I'm working with now are, they're constantly breaking down numbers or breaking down functions, which is an analogous concept, just in a different domain, right? So it's like understanding it for numbers helps you understand it for functions. But it also just, bigger picture, like trigonometry, understanding, so many students struggle with trigonometry because they know 360 degrees in a circle. And then suddenly we say, well, now there's 2 pi radians. And it's like, where does that come from? And, again, so like my trigonometry students are then struggling with this new concept, but it turns out if you understand The reason why there are 360 degrees in a circle is because ancient humans realized it had this useful property of being highly divisible. It doesn't actually have anything to do with the circle itself. There's no reason why 360 and a circle go together other than we made that association. But when you start talking about trigonometry and 2 pi, there's a very mathematical reason for that. It's because it talks about circumference, right? The circumference of a circle is 2 pi times the radius. So you can start to build connections between these concepts. And I just feel very strongly that we spend so much time like teaching algebra, then geometry, then algebra 2, then trigonometry, and you're getting very specific. A lot of the students don't understand the concepts going into it. I like to take a more general approach and show how mathematics has developed historically and how it's still to this day used, in a way that is useful. There's never been a time in history where you couldn't get a high-paying job by knowing math. But there's also just this creative side to it, and that's what I really like to do is challenge my students to think by asking questions, right? By really focusing on the how and the why of some of these concepts instead of just learning those rote memorization steps. Does that make sense, Zach?
You know what? It not only makes sense, but here's something that I had never thought of until you said this. And Darren,
Sure.
when I say I love history, I mean
Absolutely.
love history. I love history. But
Yeah.
you're right. Everything from the pyramids, the
Yes.
pyramids are almost perfect.
Yes,
Math,
so much so.
and the one thing, the ways of life, the languages, the styles, the gods, all those things have
Yeah.
changed throughout the year. But the one thing that hasn't changed is the math. I have
You're
never
so
thought
right.
of
I
that
love
until
that.
right now. So see, you've got me
Yeah.
thinking now two things, So this is getting pretty dangerous. Darren's got me thinking. I don't know if we need to
Thinking
go
about
this
math
route.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually pretty scary because truthfully, math was one of those things that I always heard as a kid. You need this to survive.
Right.
I'm like,
Sure.
where?
Right.
And
When have you ever
I'm
had to factor a quadratic in the real world? Yep.
right, but the thing is that when I got into life and I started cutting steel, even cooking and using angles and stuff like that when you're driving on a motorcycle, being able to anticipate distance and
Of
stuff,
course.
so important a lot of times. And it's all math. It's
Yeah.
all math. And so it is kind of funny. And of course, I still felt like an idiot telling my kids that same thing. It's like, look,
Sure.
you need math. Don't think you don't. So,
Right.
but
I think you're so right, Zach. I love that.
yeah, and look, first off, I know you and I used to have conversations when you and I just used to sit down and spit wind at each other and
Yeah.
just sit there and talk about how much you wanted to do this. So
Mhm.
the first thing I want to tell you is congratulations, because I
Thank you.
know how much how much this was in your heart. I know how much you wanted to do this. So, brother, from me to you, congratulations on that.
Thank you, Zach. That is so kind of you.
You are offering something that is one of the reasons why we had to get this recorded immediately is because the end of the school season's coming up. And there's
Yes.
some tests that are coming up that kids are needing help with. And you have a wonderful thing that you're doing to help them out.
ACT and SAT and standardized test prep season. And there's more tests than those two, but I think those are the two big ones that everyone's familiar with. And again, I remember going into those tests not really knowing math too well and not being able to do it without a calculator. And I was able to get through, but I'm currently offering a free 1-hour session once a week. And depending on demand, that might increase. But every Thursday night, we are doing ACT, SAT test prep session. And the way it works is students show up. I have a registration process so that I know who's coming into the Zoom room. We do everything virtually. And we spend a little bit of time, some warm up with some easier problems. And then I sort of give the options, all the different concepts that you might see on an ACT or on an SAT. We spend a little bit of time reviewing those concepts and then working on actual practice problems from either ACT, SAT tests or study material. I actually just got in the mail a big ACT practice test book that I can use to come up with some problems. So it's a chance to see actual questions that are on the test, but also just to review concepts. And I want to really create a space where people feel okay saying, I don't know, or to make mistakes, right? Because obviously on the test, you don't want that, but it
Right.
does help your learning process to be able to see a problem, say, I don't know how to do this, and then get that explanation. So it's completely free. All I ask is that people fill out a registration form and have a brief conversation with me about your child's student's math performance. But yeah, it's something I've been thinking about for a long time of how would I do that, because I don't love standardized tests, but they are an unfortunate reality right now of getting into college. And I just want to help people be successful. And that's a big part of how I want to give back with this project.
One of the other things that you want to focus on, and you want to make sure that people get this and understand this clearly, is you also want to teach adults. You want to help adults get their GED, or maybe even just study up or refresh.
Absolutely.
Look, there's things that if you don't use it, you're going to lose it, so you might as well, get it back and remember, because again, it is so important.
Yeah. And with, careers, we're entering into the age of AI. So knowing a little bit of math is never a bad thing in this sort of the world that we're living in. So you're absolutely right. I would love to start doing GED test prep as well for anyone who's looking to take that. So if anyone is, planning on taking that, definitely reach out. I can work with you. And again, going back to, I think the main concept that I want to teach is this concept of divisibility, and it connects to this as well, because it's about being able to understand fractions and number concepts so that you can do a lot more of that mental math on these standardized tests, whether it's the ACT, SAT. I'm sure this is true of the GED as well. Having a calculator, some of these questions, they've set it up so that it's a disadvantage. So if you're taking the time to type something into the calculator, there may be a better way to solve that problem to save you time, right? So everything I do is about finding that love of math, filling in those concepts that I know I struggled with. These are the things that I learned, after high school that I wish I'd known, during my high school career. So I definitely feel there are a lot of people who are my age who didn't enjoy math in school. I'm sure that's true of the previous generation and of the current generation. So just want to make it more accessible to everyone.
Yeah. It, like I said, I really think it's cool that you're doing this. And what is the difference between teaching a kid and teaching an adult?
That's a great question. And I think, the challenge is keeping that intuitive, that creative, that fun part of all of it, right? And it's a little bit easier to work with a kid in that respect, because kids love excitement, they love play. Whereas as adults, they've already had their bad experiences with math. So now not only you have to sort of get over that initial hurdle of hating math, and that's true for high schoolers as well. But I think the goal is the same in both cases, is let's make this fun. Let's make this about thinking. I want to help people start questioning and thinking for themselves, because I think really that is the value that math education should be bringing. It's not enough to say it's good for helping you solve problems. It's more about being able to ask questions of the world around you, and then having the tools to actually, does that make sense as an answer, to apply the knowledge to what you can see in the world around you and just be more curious about things.
Yeah, but you want to know something. Your answer really kind of surprises me a little bit, because I thought for sure that it would be easier to teach the adult, because the kids don't want to be there. But if an adult comes to you,
you're right.
They've got the drive to be there. But then again, it's also harder to, keep an adult from sitting there in the classroom going, geez, I could be out having a beer with my buddies or whatever. So
exactly right. Exactly.
We do have you now in two places on the website, and on the page that you see right in front of you, communitypayitforward.us/services, you will see the page for tutormymath.com. And this is just one of the two services, again, that Darren offers. And I would definitely suggest you do this. Darren, how long are you going to be doing these free classes?
Well, that's a great question, because, people are starting to take the ACT in April. But I remember when I was in high school, I actually retook it a second time, first couple weeks of summer. So for right now, I'm definitely offering it through June. But again, if there's need further than that, I would like to just continue offering this to anyone who needs help with it, because I think it is so important. And it's a good way for people to see my teaching style. And my hope is that they will want to continue working with me on other things as well. So for now, definitely first few weeks of summer.
A little bit of knowledge every week is also not a bad thing. Probably a lot
Absolutely.
better to get your kid in and get them learning, give them a little extra time to,
For sure.
to see the way things are going, instead of trying to rush everything in into 1 or 2 hour segments. So
That is so
and-
often the challenge as a tutor that I see is parents come to me when it's already, not too late, but it's already late in the year and there's already a challenge. The sooner you get started, even if, whoever you work with for your child's math education needs, get started right away, because there's always more help that you can get in math.
Yep. So,
Yeah.
and they can go to your website, which is tutormymath.com.
Yep.
And this is where they're going to be able to go. And if you scroll down just a little bit, register right here for the free ACT, SAT prep sessions. Find out more about the group tutoring and specialized math courses. So,
Yeah.
have any
And if
more
I could just
questions?
really quick. Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to
No,
shout out
go
my
ahead,
partner
please.
Kayla. She's really been helping me get everything up to date. So she just did a big overhaul on the website, and it's a very simple site, but I'm very grateful for her. She's put a lot of time into this project as well. So just want to give her a shout out, because she's amazing at getting things done.
Yeah, you know what, man? I don't really truly believe in the words very simple site. Sites are difficult.
They sure are. They sure are.
Even if they start out very simple, there's something on them that can go wrong, but and make your life a little more difficult. Is there anything else that you wanted to share with anybody before we wrap this up?
I would love to just, I know I've filled in some of the details of my own story, but something that I would want to just mention on, when I was a junior in high school, I had a lot of pressure to pick a career, pick a degree path, something that you can do for the rest of your life that, would turn in, the thing that you do until you retire, essentially. And at that time in my life, I didn't have a ton of confidence in myself. I didn't think I was that capable in most subjects, but specifically in math and science. So I initially picked a career path that was very light in math and science, which is actually aviation. I was going to be a pilot, because I think this. I was actually born in England, so I have a lot of family out in England. So my thought was, well, if I'm a pilot, then I can fly back and forth across the Atlantic, and that was sort of the idea. But again, it was very, you had to take a trigonometry course and a physics course, and it was because of that I decided that was going to be my whole life. That was my career choice. My senior year of high school, I decided to switch from taking AP European history into physics, because I thought, well, at least if I fail physics in high school, I'll have seen it once, and then maybe I can get it in college, right? And again, it was just this mindset that I had about myself of, I'm not capable. I don't think that I could do this. But then I had an incredible physics teacher my senior year, and that piqued my interest. And suddenly I saw that all this math we were learning did have an application, and that's how I got into. I graduated high school in 2009 during the recession. My dad sort of came to me. The only time I really ever seen him get super emotional is when he saw how much.
Unfortunately,
I think we cut out there for a second.
yeah, you were about ready to talk about your dad.
Yeah, so he had seen how much it was going to cost to do an aviation degree, and he got very emotional when he realized what that would be, and that because of the state of the economy, he may not be able to help me with that. And he sat me down and said, really want you to think about this, because it is a lot of money. And that's what prompted me to take one semester of classes at a community college, which turned into 2 years. I got an associate's degree in engineering, and suddenly, I took calculus, I took all these courses, I started to enjoy it. But that's where I really found that passion of teaching. Is suddenly, I was meeting up before class with my other classmates, and I was the one up at the board trying to explain it to everyone so they could get their homework done, and that turned into, I challenged myself. I sort of said, I wonder how far I can actually go in math before it becomes too hard. And I never reached that point. I just kept going with it. I ended up doing a master's degree. And the point I tell this story is because if I had gone that route, I'm not sure I would have found a passion in aviation. Whereas I found this passion for teaching and even collaborating, right? Because after that, I entered the business world, and I found that because I had been sort of that person, almost in a leadership type role, like I found that I loved collaborating with other people and trying to solve problems. So like I learned a lot about myself by going through this path. And I just think that there's so many people, we put so much pressure on graduating high school students to figure out what the rest of their life is going to look like. And I just want my students to consider mathematics as an option, because I know they probably right now aren't thinking that would ever be them, but that's the position I was in. I thought I would never do anything math related. And now it's sort of become my life, So I just want people to know that there is a fun side of it. There is a way to do it differently. There is a way that the average, I've never worked with a student that didn't have the potential to be successful in math. Every single student I work with, every student who says to me, I don't like math, I say, but why? Because you can do it. I see the potential in you. It just hasn't been taught to you in a way. And I want to be the teacher, that I mentioned, that physics teacher that I had. I want to be the person that helps people feel inspired and feel that confidence that they can do it, because I believe that they can.
One of the things that I've said this quite often, that I believe that we put too much pressure on kids when they're coming out of high school to go into college and pick majors right away.
Exactly.
And I think that they need to get in there. They need to look around. They need to make sure, because, you look, how often do kids go in and they switch majors because they're like, we talked to somebody the other day that went into college and she had she wanted to be a pediatric doctor, and she wanted to do this. She went in to go, and they got to the point where she had to go in and face a dead person.
Oh, gosh.
And she fainted, and she knew right then and there. And that was a lot of wasted time,
Right.
In which, look, learning is never a wasted time, but truthfully,
no, of course. Yes.
We need to stop putting all that pressure on these kids and let them develop life.
Exactly right.
Let them learn. Let them see what's out there, and, let them experience. Make sure that we allow them to experience things and life and have a good time a little bit, be responsible. Right. Let's not have too much fun.
No, absolutely. There's definitely a limit there, but encouraging kids to, make some mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to not get things right the first time, but keep your options open. Keep your mind open. There's so many possibilities. And I don't think high school kids really see, like, entrepreneurship. I was never taught about entrepreneurship. I didn't know that was an option. And now, again, like, that's something else that I've fallen into. It's just, I don't think that we allow kids to really explore those sides of things. And I think you're so right that we should do that, because there's so many options. There's so many ways to be successful. And just because you had a bad experience before, like, you don't know what you're going to do. You don't know what you're capable of until you challenge yourself. So I agree with you 100% on that, Zach.
I remember that I had a history teacher who taught, who can't remember his name. He was he was in junior high. That's why, people who can remember like their third grade teachers, I just sit there and growl at them, because I'm like going, my God, I can't remember high school teachers' names. But I truly wasn't the best student in the world. But I had this one teacher in junior high who taught us English or history by presenting 2 weeks of the history lessons with 1 week of the music that was going on in that point in time.
Oh, I love that.
And it was such a neat way to make everything stick. You get into, we got into the 60s with the Beatles and everything else. And it made history. And I'll be honest with you, I think a lot of that is the reason why history became fun to me.
That's cool.
because
And
of
it's
the way that he taught that.
when you have a teacher like that that offers it in a new way, and like that adds so much culture and the history of the culture
Yeah.
behind it. But when you have that teacher that does it in that way, it sticks with you, doesn't it? And like
Oh yeah.
again, like that's what I would love to be for people, is just here's a different way to think about things. That's
Well,
a cool
brother man,
story.
I think you're really on the way to do that. Hey, I've got the Darren Finnegan harnessdataconsulting.com, but you have another email. What's that
Yep.
other email?
Darren Finnegan at tutormymath.com, or just
Okay,
go to the
so-
website. It's on there. Yep.
Yep, right there. So just add Darren Finnegan to the front of Tutor My Math, and you'll get it. Or just go to the website, like you said, and
Yeah.
hit it up there. You can also contact us here at communitypayitforward.us. Contact us, and we will definitely get you in touch with Darren. Darren is now a double member of Community Pay It Forward. You hire him, he's going to give back to a cause that you love.
Absolutely.
Remember that. So do good for
Absolutely.
your kids, do good for yourself, do good for the others, and help Darren and his other half be able to continue their lifestyle of freedom. So
Yes.
brother
thank you,
man,
Zach.
I'm going to tell you something, way too long.
sure.
But it was really good hooking up with you again and talking to you. I think
Likewise, Zach.
I think that we need to do some stuff together, because we also need to make sure that send us the link every week, and we will share it out on every Wednesday, the link to your class on Thursday, because
Yeah.
our podcast is on Wednesday night. So if you send me that link, we will share it out every Wednesday.
Yeah, we'll do. I'll send you the registration link. Zach, thank you so much for doing this. It was so nice to see your name pop up on my phone, and I'm so glad to see that you're still out here working hard, trying to make a difference, and I really admire that. So thank you for having me today.
Well, I'll be honest, brother man, I couldn't be doing it without people like you. Thank you so much for what you're doing. And again, congratulations on being the dream that you wanted to be and getting
Thank you.
into this whole math field, because I know how important that was with you. Hey,
That
everybody,
means so much.
my buddy Darren Finnegan, tutormymath.com. He's also with harnessdataconsulting.com. So, if you have any questions, just have a conversation. Look, let's
Reach
be
out.
honest.
Yep.
You've met the kid now. He's easy to talk to. He's a good time to talk to as well. I'll guarantee you that. So,
Yeah.
But,
no, I love to talk to anyone. Just give me a call,
all right. Sounds good. So once again, tutormymath.com, just scroll down to the bottom. There's a contact me form there, fill it out, but get your kids, look, a little bit of extra help with math, never a bad thing. So thank you, Darren.
Thank you, Zach.
We are coming to an end of March, which means that campaign, it this bugs me. I don't like saying this, but you know, I guess I'm going to. The awareness month for brain injury awareness is coming to an end. Something that we were talking about with Darren right there towards the end. If y'all remember last week, we had a very talented young man who joined us, Alex, and he was talking about how he was looking into neurology. And he was ready for neurology, and that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to get into the medical field. That's what it was. Then he got in there and he realized, man, this is a lot of biology that I just don't quite understand. That's what I was getting at when I was talking about, we're putting pressures on kids that they don't need. Yet let's let them get into college, experience adulthood. You got to remember, this is the first time a lot of them have ever experienced any semblance of adulthood. Of course, on the other hand, we all think that we're adults when we hit the age of 16. I only wish I knew half of what I knew when I was 16. I'd be brilliant. Reality, I wouldn't know a damn thing, but I would think that I knew everything. Scrolling below me is the link to get into Darren's class. Go to his website, tutormymath.com. tutormymath.com. Scroll down very slightly and you'll see the register for the ACT testing, ACT, SAT testing. I didn't take those tests too serious when I was a kid. And so it's hard for me to even act like I did. But you know what? I think it would be amazing to have somebody who's so excited to try to teach in a different way, to give them a chance to maybe make a difference in your child's life, maybe make a difference in your life. Maybe make a subject that's kind of a pain in the ass to you stand out as something that you enjoy. We meet a lot of people who love what they do on this show. Jared loves helping businesses have a chance to run. He loves it. He lives for it. A couple weeks ago, y'all met Ryan Champion. He loves to get people into a home. It's not a job, it's a passion. Which in my mind is something that you really need to do. You need to have to be a business owner. Is you have to have the passion for what you do. Seeing Darren and his love for math, it's interesting because so many of us, and he's probably right, it's because we weren't given the chance to love math. And so many of us have grown to hate math. But the way that things go in the world, you need math. Angles, estimate, finances. There's so many things that you need math for. I mean, it's ridiculously silly. Having somebody who is telling you, you know what? I know what they did wrong in school. I know why it wasn't interesting. It wasn't interesting for me either. Give me a chance. Let me make it interesting for you. I love it. So both of these individuals are also going to be added to the heroes section of communitypayitforward.us. Jared, obviously, because he is a veteran, a 13-year-old veteran, 13-year veteran, sorry, not year old, in our armed service. Community Pay It Forward, we also consider teachers heroes. Hell, they got a battleground that they got a tougher battleground than most people because they're going to be dealing with people who don't really want to learn a lot of times. Hopefully Darren doesn't have that problem too much. Hopefully the people come to Darren that they're really going to want and respect his teachings. But I mean, there's still going to be a little bit of pushback. That just happens. They're both heroes because they're both doing stuff and they're both helping other people. And that's the kind of people we're looking for. We use a program called Shop, Pick, and Click. You shop with a partner, find them right here. Tell us what you need. We'll see if we can send you somebody who can satisfy that need. You click a pic of the receipt or the invoice, or you send us the email that you get, a facsimile of the email that you get, and then you, the customer, pick who you wish to support. It's called Shop, Pick, and Click.
Introducing Shop, Click, and Pick, the simplest way to support those doing good. We understand that shopping is a necessity, but with a slight adjustment, you can make a big difference. Here's how it works. Visit communitypayitforward.us and navigate to the Find Your Partners tab. Discover our verified giving partners, trusted allies ready to meet your needs. Shop with any partner that resonates with you. Click a picture of your receipt or invoice. Pick the mission partner you wish to support and use their QR code to send the receipt to us. Then, all you have to do is sit back and enjoy your purchase, knowing you've made a meaningful change for someone in need. Community Pay It Forward amplifies your business's impact by sharing your story with those who require your services, rallying support for those who need us all. Because no one needs to go it alone. When we all come together.
Very simple program. You shop, you click, you pick, and you support. You support small business, small to medium business, and you support people in your community. We've reached the end of our show, and I want to thank you so very much. Coming up in just a couple minutes, we are replaying last week's episode, or this week's episode of Footprints Forward. After that, I'm going to replay last week's Packed show because it is the last episode where that we were able to talk with quite a few people dealing with brain injuries. If you have a question, or if you have somebody who's dealing with a brain injury that's new to it, and they just need to talk, if they just have questions, may I suggest have them reach out to my good friend Jeff Pearson at Hydro with Hope. Or they can reach out to me right here at Community Pay It Forward. We're not going to be able to answer the questions, okay? We're not going to be able to tell them what they're going to go through because we don't know what they're going through. What we can tell them is what we went through, what we go through on a day-to-day basis. As you guys can hear, my dog is barking at the wash machine. He's protecting me. We can tell them what we went through, what we experienced, and hopefully we can help them understand a little bit about what's going on in their lives. 970-909-0751, 970-909-0751 is how you can get a hold of me. Register right now for tomorrow night. TutorMyMath.com. Get your kid the advantage of knowledge for the SATs, CATs testing. My name is Zach Clayton. I want to wish everyone a very happy evening. Please make sure you take care of each other. Love someone out there because someone out here loves you. Remember, if you're not helping someone, you're hurting everyone. No one needs to go it alone. When we all come together, we'll see you next week.
Stepping out of her fear, bring me home. Out alone, to show me the way. You wanna be a part of Sunset Boulevard.